Hey guys, Jill here with JillFit Physiques, and today I'm bringing you a question from a Nat. She emailed in and said, how much cardio is too much cardio? I'm doing 3 runs, 3 5Ks a week. Is that going to be too much for me? So a lot of people ask about cardio. How much should I do? Is it too much? There's kind of two camps when you think about fitness. There's the more the better, and then there's people who say, look, it's all about quality and doing intense exercise. That's the most important for fat loss. So here's the thing, and here's my very frustrating answer. It depends. And what does it depend on? It actually depends on a couple things. So first of all, what's your goal? If your goal is fat loss, then you definitely need to do intense exercise. However, we have kind of this bodybuilding camp and people who do physique shows, and they kind of layer on the cardio. I know that a lot of JillFit followers have done shows or have gone through this process where they've done more and more and more cardio. And if you've read these blogs, you know that I went through that as well, where I was doing 2 hours of cardio at times just to simply maintain my weight. So when we talk about fat loss, you want to think about efficiency. So how little cardio can you get away with and still maintain your current size or even lose just a little bit? So here's what happens. When we increase the amount of cardio we do, the volume we do, there's a bell-shaped curve, right? So when you get to this point, that means that you're kind of getting the most you can out of your cardio. And if you start doing more, you reach a point of diminishing returns where no more cardio can get you more results. So this point is going to be different on everyone. I'm working with someone right now, a client of mine, who came to me, and when she came to me, she was doing 2 hours of cardio a day, and she's the biggest she's ever been. So she's the heaviest she's ever been, her body fat is the highest it's ever been, and she's still doing 2 hours of cardio a day. So the first thing to think about when you're in a situation like this is, how different will it be if you start cutting back just a little bit? So if you go from 2 hours to an hour and a half, can you make that change and stay the same size? Because the 2 hours of cardio isn't helping her. It's not making her leaner. She's not losing fat doing 2 hours of cardio a day. So can you cut it back to an hour and a half? That's where I would start someone like that. Then after a couple weeks, I would probably bring them back to an hour of cardio a day and then down to 30 minutes and bump the intensity up. So really what you want to think about is not so much how much cardio or how many minutes or how many calories do I need to burn or anything like that. Instead, think about what's the shortest amount of time I can do with the greatest intensity to either maintain my same results or even just get a little bit leaner. And I would actually argue that less is better because you're able to go more intense. So if I said to you, go out and do an hour, an hour of running and go as fast as you can, what would you immediately do? You would immediately pace, because an hour of jogging, 1 minute in, you have 59 minutes left. So you're definitely going to want to pace on that. If I said to you, go out and sprint for 30 seconds, and then rest, you would be able to go a lot harder. And when it comes to fat loss, intensity always trumps duration. However, for fat loss, you might have to do a little bit more calorie burning. And that's where some things like leisure walking come into. That's where weight training is really important. But I would always say that cardio is kind of the least effective when we talk about fat loss. That's always the last thing that I add on to any of my girls who are doing competition prep. The number one thing is nutrition. The second thing is consistent weight training, and I would say, high volume of weight training, 5 days a week, maybe even 6 days a week of weight training, and then we try and do as much as we can with that and give that plenty of time. We only layer on cardio at the very last second. So I know some coaches don't do any cardio at all. Others start them out on 2 hours of cardio a day at 12 weeks out from a show. Mine is always individual, so some of my girls have to do more, some have to do less, but what I always keep in mind is that a show or a photo shoot or something is, that's a crash diet. A competition diet is a crash diet. So when you finish that, you always need to be looking to after the show. And you guys know this, you've read my blog, you understand the importance of sustainability when it comes to your nutrition program, when it comes to your exercise. So an efficient exercise plan is always going to be more sustainable. So even if I sat here and told you that you need to do 2 hours of cardio a day to achieve fat loss, who could ever continue doing that? That's unsustainable. So if, maybe you're super, super disciplined like I was and you were able to do that for a year or maybe 2 years, at some point you're not going to be able to do that. And the amount of damage you can do to your metabolism from doing 2 years of 2 hours of cardio a day sometimes is irreparable. So think about from the perspective of, could you keep up what you're doing now Could you see yourself 5 years, 10 years from now still doing that? Because that's what happens. If you do more and more cardio, you have to continue to do more and more in the future just to simply maintain. So you always want to add that on last. So I would say the answer to this question is always the shortest amount you can get away with. Focus on nutrition, because the more cardio you do, the higher your craving is going to be, the more hungry you're going to be. This stuff is all related, so make sure that you're doing efficient exercise and getting as much as you can out of a short exercise workout. And then from there, focus on nutrition and really kind of reserve your time and your willpower for staying on a tight nutrition program. So hopefully that helps you guys. We'll see you next time.